everyone, today I have my hands on the new Nikon 24-70mm f2.8 Mark II. We're going to be seeing what this lens is capable of today out on location at a real-world portrait photo shoot. I have a heap of photo examples to share with you, some video examples to share as well on the Nikon Z8. Let's get started. We're starting here in this super sunny spot because I do want to use the base ISO of 64. I'm not sure we'll be able to use it like with backlight because we're at f2.8 on this lens. So this is a good opportunity. That looks so cool, I love it. The Nikon 24-70 f2.8 Mark II is a full frame lens, and I'm gonna be testing it out at a portrait photo shoot today with the Nikon Z8. I'll be sharing lots of unedited, straight out of camera images at 100% crop so you can see the true detail this lens produces, and afterwards my edited version, which I chose to use my Aspen preset for a natural finish to these photos. I'll also have a few comparison images to other lenses throughout the video for you to look at as well. Can I get you to stand just here, please? Oh my god, that looks so pretty! First up, let's take a look at image quality. I finally am taking some photos at the Z8's base ISO of 64. I do listen to your comments. I would have liked to have done this for the entire photo shoot, but since this is an f2.8 lens, I did have to bump it up eventually to be able to increase my shutter speed to avoid any motion blur. The Z8 handles these ISOs just fine though, so it doesn't have a big impact on image quality. Now that you've had the chance to look at a few of the photos this lens produces, I have to say it's quite sharp. I'm getting some like kind of close-up shots here. Like headshots, but still has nice character. So it's not clinically sharp, but you can see plenty of details like skin texture and hair texture, all while still looking very flattering for portraits. The photos have really beautiful, punchy contrast, and I think the colors look amazing straight out of camera. So I have the Mark I 24-70 as well. So I'm gonna take a few comparison photos throughout today's photo shoot, and I'll show them to you side by side towards the end of the video. Maybe if you sit like right here in the sun next to this bush could look cool. I definitely enjoy the photos this 24-70 Mark II produces. This image quality is consistent throughout the entire focal range too. Sometimes standard zooms like this shine on the telephoto end and struggle on the wide end, but you can expect to rely on the quality of this lens at any millimeter. My only downside would be the focusing that I've spoken about in previous videos with Nikon's AF system. I don't know if it's maybe not optimized for portraits, but you will notice in a few photos that while Hayley's skin is really sharp and you can see all the texture there, her irises are sometimes a bit soft. You'll see in the comparison images against some of Nikon's prime lenses that difference in sharpness too. At the end of the day though, I did come home with plenty of images to choose from with critical focus to edit. But I feel like it would be cool if you stood like maybe just here as well. With performance, I'm making use of People AF with continuous autofocus on Auto Area AF. As I do with all my reviews, I let the camera and lens do all the work so you can get a better idea of what it would be like using it yourself. This 24-70 f2.8 Mark II is making use of Nikon's Silky Swift VCM, which is an upgrade from the Mark I. I'm impressed with the performance out in the field. Autofocus is super sticky and responsive, as you can see in the picture-in-picture. I did have a few missed photos here and there throughout the photo shoot, which honestly is nothing out of the ordinary. Even the highest end lenses have missed focus sometimes due to having a moving subject and the fact that I'm moving around while taking photos. Let's take a closer look at the build. This Nikon 24-70mm f2.8 Mark II weighs 675 grams, which is quite a lot lighter compared to the original, which weighs 805 grams. You can definitely feel this weight difference out on location. A 24-70 in terms of portraits is a super popular lens for wedding photography, so I think you will absolutely feel that weight difference on those long days of shooting. This Mark II now has internal zoom. It features a zoom ring, focus ring, and aperture ring, and I am so excited. Nikon have implemented a click switch for their aperture ring. You may remember in my other reviews saying how I always end up disabling this ring on their other lenses as it's just too easy to touch without realizing it. So this upgrade is very, very welcome. This lens features a focus mode switch, that click switch I mentioned, a 77mm filter thread, 2 customizable buttons, it's weather sealed, and one thing I find really interesting is it has a focus limiter switch. This is something that's usually reserved for telephoto lenses, so it's nice to see Nikon have implemented this into this lens too. It would be nice to have more information on the button itself, but the limit is 33 centimeters or more across the entire zoom range. A couple more things you need to know about the build is the aperture range is f2.8 to f22. There is a minimum focus distance of 24 centimeters on the wide end and 33 centimeters on the long end. And finally, there is no vibration reduction in the lens, which is pretty normal for a standard zoom lens like this.
Ultimate bin level of cheap.
It's this going thing, like every time I pick somewhere to shoot, there's a bin in the background.
Yeah, so there's always.
This one's pretty big.
We don't skip bins now.
This 24-70 Mark II features 11 rounded aperture blades, and I took some extra photos on a separate day so you can take a better look at that. The streets we were shooting at were okay for bokeh, but there wasn't quite enough to work with. The bokeh is nice and round, there is no chromatic aberration in the bokeh, and it is pretty clean for the most part, although I do see a little bit of texture when you zoom in and look for it. In my opinion though, you can't really notice this texture on the zoomed out image. Before we get to the price and video test, the last thing I want to talk about is lens flare. There is a minor amount of ghosting when shooting in backlight. I personally like this as I shoot in backlight to get that low contrast look in my photos, and even with the haze, I think the subject is still cutting through nicely. So you can see here in these comparison photos where I was allowing the sun to stream into the lens compared to blocking it out with the tree, that shift in contrast in the photos. I'm really impressed with the lens flare control in this Mark II, especially when you take a look at the comparison images I took on the Mark I. I tested them both out on location on a different day, and the Mark II has significantly less lens flare, which is a great upgrade to see. In saying that, this is still a zoom lens at the end of the day, and zooms typically tend to have more prominent flaring than primes. You can see in a few shots I had some small flares hitting right into Hayley's face. These were all taken without the lens hood, by the way, as I want to see what those flares look like. This lens has a great handle on chromatic aberration. I couldn't find any in my shots. One of the last things that I want to do is get a full body shot at 70 millimeters just so we can see the compression, and I'm going to shoot right down the street as well. We've got some cars in the shot, just ignore them. So I'm going to do a focal length comparison of all the main focal lengths of this lens standing in the same spot. So I'm going to start off on 70 and then I'll zoom out to 50. Then we have 35, 28, and finally 24. And I'm going to do that one more time starting at 70, but this time I'm going to move around and frame each shot to look the same. Let's take a look at those Mark I versus Mark II comparison images while we talk about price. So I'm going to take the same photo. I've got the exact same settings for both lenses. So right here I was at around 35 for the Mark II, so I'll get the same shot on the Mark I. So this lens is going to set you back a fair amount of money, and at this price point, I would say this is a lens aimed at professionals who are making a living off the gear they use. I'll get like a close-up with this one too. In terms of portraits, I think people covering events and weddings or also using it for videography will want this for the performance and weight upgrades alone. I would assume the increase in price from the Mark I comes down to the new autofocus motors and also probably due to the glass itself. I'm going to get a 24mm comparison here. We've got a bit of backlight and lots of texture to look at in the background as well. So took my Mark II photo and now I'm going to get the Mark I photo with the exact same settings. Looking at the side-by-side images I took throughout the photo shoot, you can consistently see how much the Mark II has more contrast, especially in backlight, so it can handle that scenario better than the Mark I. The Mark I has much more ghosting and also more prominent lens flares as well. You can also see the Mark II is sharper in the backlit photos, but in the photos with even lighting, such as the close-up portraits, I think the sharpness looks about the same, to be honest. Let me know what you think. One more thing I noticed is the bokeh of the Mark II is cleaner. The Mark I has some chromatic aberration and much more prominent texture in the bokeh. For these video autofocus tests, I'm making use of people subject detection in full-time autofocus mode, and you guessed it, I'm letting the camera do all the work so we can see how it performs. This lens looks beautiful for video as well. The footage is super sharp, there's great contrast, and there's stunning colors as well. The AF tests with Dan and I are done in standard picture profile, and the shots of Hayley are in N-Log with my custom Rec 709 conversion light, so you can see this lens in a couple of different scenarios. Just like in photo, it does a great job at keeping up with a moving subject. This is where you can really see those new AF motors doing their job. If you're a videographer, you'll be happy to hear that there is no shift in center of gravity when zooming or focusing, which will make this lens easy to use on a gimbal. I also have some focus while zooming tests and focus breathing for you to look at. That is all I have for today's hands-on review. Let me know what you think of the lens and which ones were your favorite photos down in the comments below. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I make new videos every single week, so I'll see you all next time. Bye.